We begin today the Gemara on Daf Nun Gimel Amud Beis towards the bottom of the Amud. Let's see, 5 lines up from the bottom of the Amud. Ibayaluhu, the Shaila was asked as follows. Okay, so here the Gemara was discussing halachas in relation to Ma'aser Sheni. One of the halachas regarding Ma'aser Sheni is when the owner of this produce of Ma'aser Sheni redeems it or deconsecrates it on money, he has to add a fifth to the value of the fruits of the Ma'aser Sheni. So on this fifth that you have to add. So the shaila is chumshe milagav. Is this a fifth from the inside, or chumshe milabar, or this is a fifth on the outside? What does this mean? Chumshe milagav means, as Rashi gives the example, let's say the produce is worth $20. So what's a fifth of that? Another $4. In other words, the fifth here is the fifth of the principal. So you add $4. That's milagav. Milagav means from the principal itself. Chumshe milabar means that after you add the fifth, then you take the whole total sum together and you divide it into 5 parts, and that fifth has to be a fifth from the total sum. So if the example is $20, then the fifth is going to be $5, because if it's 25 and you divide 25 into 5, it's going to be $5. So then the fifth is going to be another $1 in this example. That's the shayla.
That's from the outside?
Yeah, that's what milabar means. Exactly. Milabar means on the outside, in other words, after you have the total sum, including the fifth. Amar Ravina, so Ravina says, Tashama, bring your raya from a Mishnah where it basically says clearly the amount of what a fifth is. So here, this Mishnah is talking about a person that was makdish, a property to hektish, a stei achuzah. When you makdish this property to hektish, so there's a difference between you can redeem it from hektish, but there's a difference between the owner that comes to redeem it or another person that comes to redeem it. When the owner comes to redeem it, he has to add a fifth. But another person that comes to redeem it doesn't have to add a fifth. He just redeems it for its value. Okay, so here, the point that this mission is going to say is that when you come to redeem it, and there are 2 people that are offering to redeem it, the owner himself, and then there's someone else that's offering to redeem it, we accept the money, we allow the one that Hektish is gonna gain from more, that's offering more money to Hektish to redeem it. So Habaylo Maimrim, if the owner comes along and says Be'esrim, that he's gonna redeem it for $20. And there's another person that's not the owner that comes and offers to redeem it for 20. Habaylam Kaidmin, so the owner is the one that we say that he comes first. He should be the one that should redeem it, not someone else. And the reason is because when an owner redeems, he has to add a fifth. So Hektish gains by this. And that just to add another clarification to what the Gemara here is bringing, this halacha only applies in a time when Yovel is not in effect. In a time when Yovel is in effect, redeeming this property that you will makdish to Hektish has a set value. It says in the Psukim in Parshas Bechokaisai. There's a certain set value of how much you have to pay in order to redeem it. Over here, we're talking about people that are offering a certain price, and someone else could offer a higher price. This is all only in the time when there's no Yovel, in the time of the second Beis HaMikdash. Now, someone else comes along. The owner offered and said, I'm going to redeem it for $20. Someone else comes and says, I'll give 21. So he's hiking up the price. He's ready to pay more. So habaylim naisnim esrim v'sheish. So now, what we're going to do over here is, we're going to say that the owner is the one that has to redeem it. But now, because the price, someone else is ready to pay for it more, so its price is not 20 anymore. The price is 21. So therefore, he's going to have to pay for this 26. So this is interesting over here. On one hand, when the other person offers to pay 21, so we're not going to say let the other person pay 21 and that's it. He's offering more than what the owner is offering. No, but the owner, if he would redeem it, he would have to give 25. But at the same time, because we see someone else is ready to pay 21, so that means that we consider that now to be the price. So therefore, the owner now is going to have to redeem it for Esrim V'Sheish, for 26. Okay, so in other words, he has to now give 21 plus that fifth from the original price that he offered. This is, as you see over here, there's 2 opposite things that's going on at the same time. Because on one hand, we say that he now the owner is going to have to redeem it based on this higher price that the other person offered, because that shows that it has that value of that higher price. But at the same time, though, the amount of the fifth that he has to pay is the fifth from the original price, exactly, which is only another 5. That fifth we keep to the original price. We don't hike it up with the new price that this other person was ready to pay for it. The Mishnah continues and says the same is in any additional higher price that another person offers. Esrim Mishnayim. Another person comes and says, I'm ready to pay for this property 22. Habaylam Naisim Esrim V'Sheva. So the owner is going to have to now also pay more, 22 plus the fifth of the original 20 that he was ready to pay. Be'esrim v'shalish, another person is ready to pay 23, so now Bailam Nesrim Nesrim Shmeina, you're going to have to pay 28. Be'esrim v'arba, another person comes and says he's ready to pay 24, Bailam Nesrim Nesrim v'teisha, the owner has to give 29. Esrim v'chamesh, another person says he's ready to pay for this property 25, Bailam Nesrim Shleishim, the owner has to give 30. Now here the Mishnah finishes off and says the halacha l'fi she'ein mesifin chaimish al ilui shalzeh. When the owner has to add the fifth, he adds the fifth to the original price that he offered for the property. He doesn't have to add a fifth based on this higher value that the other person hiked up the price. But the point is, what do you see over here? That when you look at the original price that the owner offered, which is 20, what was the amount of the fifth that the Mishnah here said? 5. 5 for 20 is considered to be the fifth. If you would, so Shema Minor, the Gemara says, so what you see from here is Chumshe Malabar, that you estimate the fifth, including the amount of the fifth as well. Because if, like I said before, in this example of 20, what's a fifth? If you're just looking at the principal itself, 4 should be 24. But if you're saying it's 25, that means that you're looking at the total sum, 25, and you divide that into 5, that's a fifth. So you see clearly here that the Chaimish in this Mishnah here is Malabar. Shema Minor, this is a clear ayah. Says the Gemara, Kitanoi, this question of how you evaluate the fifth is a machlekes Tanoi. The pasuk says, V'yasav chamishisai olav. You should add a fifth when you come to redeem the meiser. I think that's this pasuk. This pasuk actually says, V'yasav chamishisai is speaking about hektish, actually, I believe. So when you come to add a fifth, so shehehu v'chumshai chamisha. So you evaluate the fifth, not only regarding the principle, but the principle and the chaimish together, then that's how you evaluate the fifth. This is the chaimish malabar. Divrei Rabbi Yeshua, that's what Rabbi Yeshua says. But Rabbi Yonasan chamishisa means chumshe shel keren. You evaluate the fifth, just a fifth of the principle itself. That's chaimish malagav. So you see here clearly that it's a machlekes tanaim. Another shaila was asked about this fifth that you have to add when you redeem the ma'aser sheni. Chaimish ma'akiv, this halacha of adding the fifth, does it prevent you? Meaning you must give this fifth if you want to be able to eat the produce out of Yerushalayim, and you're going to instead take money up to Yerushalayim. You must first separate also that fifth. Oh, ain't a ma'akiv. No, it's not ma'akiv. Even if you redeem the produce for the value of the money, for the money, you didn't yet give a fifth. You have an obligation to give the fifth, but even before that, you're allowed to already eat your produce outside Yerushalayim. And the Gemara explains what the basis of this shaila here is. Dalid b'dalid parik. Do I say if you have produce that's worth 4, so you redeem it for money that's also worth 4? That's how that's the redemption, and then you could eat your produce. Va'akenavshei ma'asav chaimish. And then there's a separate thing for itself that you have now the obligation to add a fifth. But whether you add a fifth, whether you don't add a fifth, that it does, the redemption is complete. It's just an additional obligation to add the fifth. So if that's the case, then the point would be that the redemption is complete. So then the chaimish, the fifth, is an added obligation, but it doesn't hold up from eating the actual fruits itself once you redeemed it. Or maybe, no, the fact that the Torah says you have to add a fifth, it's not just an added obligation. Arba b'chamisha parik. What the Torah is saying is, if you have produce that's worth 4, you have to add a fifth, and that's the gzeiras hakasov, that the actual redemption itself consists of the keren plus this fifth. The fifth is not an additional obligation. That is the actual redemption itself. That's the shaila. V'chaimish ma'akiv. So therefore the chaimish will be ma'akiv. Amar Ravina, so Ravina says, Toshama, I'll bring you a raya from what it says in the Mishnah regarding the din of demai. Demai is when you have produce where it comes from Amma Oretz. So Minatayre, we rely on the fact that they give the maestras. But the Rabbanon were machmer, and they said that you have to give maestras again because there's some of them that don't give meiser. That's the demai. So it says when you have to redeem the meiser sheni of demai, ein lechaimish. Over here you do not have to add a fifth. And also ve'en le beer. There's the halacha regarding maestras. Once in 3 years before Pesach, you have to get rid of all the trumas and maestras that you didn't give yet over the last 3 years. But if you have demai in your house, over here the halacha of beer that you have to get rid of it, get it out of your house, does not apply. Okay, so the Gemara focuses on the halacha of ein le chaimish. It says here regarding demai, you don't have to add this chaimish. Now hak keren yeshlei. The keren, meaning the actual redemption of the worth of the Ma'aser Sheni, that does apply by Dmai. But not Chaimish, you don't have to add a fifth. What's the reason? Why not? My time. Keren de Ma'akev B'day Raise, because the Keren, that's something which you must separate in order to be able to eat this produce, minatayre. So therefore, Isa b'derabbanon. So therefore, by the Demai, which is only a chomer b'derabbanon, the Rabbanon applied it and were machman that you should separate this keren for the Ma'aser Sheni. Chaimish, the loy ma'akiv b'day, but the fifth, which is an added obligation, but it's even if you don't do it, it doesn't hold you up from eating the fruits. So therefore, less b'derabbanon. This, Chachamim were not machmer regarding the demai to separate it. So here, from the fact that you see here in this brisa or this mishnah, the distinction between the keren and the chaimish regarding demai, you see that you must say that there's a distinction there between the keren and the chaimish is not ma'akiv. Says the Gemara Text, shall we say that this shaila about the chaimish, whether it's ma'akiv or not, is a machlokes tanoim? Because it says over here in this mishnah or this brisa, nosan as keren. If you gave the keren, the amount of the principal for this Ma'aser Sheni that you're separating, but you didn't add the fifth for it, Rabbi Eliezer says you can eat it even before you separate the fifth. Rabbi Yeshua says no, you're not allowed to eat it yet. So now on this, on my Rabbi said, Nirin divri Rabbi Eliezer b'Shabbos. It seems to me that we should follow, like Rabbi Eliezer said, on a Shabbos, when a person needs this food for Shabbos, so then you can follow what Rabbi Eliezer said, even before you separate the chaimish, you can eat it. But we follow Rabbi Yeshua's opinion when it comes on a regular weekday, that you should not eat it until you separate the chaimish as well. This is the brayse here regarding the chaimish of Ma'aser Sheni. So what do you see here? So the Gemara explains, from this that Rabbi says, Nirin divri Rabbi Eliezer b'Shabbos, that it appears to me that with Rabbi Eliezer, we should follow Rabbi Eliezer regarding Shabbos. Meklal, the pligi or the palig, afilu b'chayil. What you see is Rabbi Eliezer, his opinion is that even during the week, you do not have to add a fifth. So that's on one hand. So we see that Rabbi Eliezer is the one that holds that chaimish is not ma'akiv. On the other hand, Rabbi says that it appears to me that we should follow what Rabbi Yeshua says during the week, that you should not eat from the Ma'aser Sheni until you separate the chaimish. So I see that Rabbi Yeshua argued even on Shabbos. He held that even on Shabbos, you should not eat from the produce of Ma'aser Sheni until you separate the fifth as well. So you see over here that Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua are arguing. They're not making, as far as their argument is concerned, there's no distinction between Shabbos or a weekday. They're clearly arguing about this point that our Iboya was about. Do you have to add a fifth when you redeem in order to eat from the Ma'aser Sheni or not? So my love, don't you think? They're arguing with the shayla that we asked here. Rabbi Eliezer savar chaimish loy ma'akiv. Rabbi Eliezer holds that minat Torah, the chaimish does not hold you up from eating the fruits that you already redeemed the principal. You just have to, it's an additional obligation that you have later. Rabbi Yeshua savar chaimish ma'akiv. Rabbi Yeshua holds no, the fifth minat Torah is ma'akiv, and therefore you can't eat until you separate the chaimish. For that you also add the value of the chaimish as well. So on this, the Gemara says that's not necessarily the explanation of their machlekes. Rav Papa says, no. The Kula Alme, I can tell you, they all agree, chaimish loy ma'akiv, that minat Torah, the fifth, does not hold you up from eating the fruits. But v'hacha over here, v'chashinan l'pshiyusa kamiflagi. The argument over here is midrabanan. Even though minat Torah you're allowed to eat it, were chachamim machmer, and they were afraid that a person that is eating already his fruits, he might be negligent, and he might not end up separating this chaimish. Marsava chashinu l'pshiyusa. Rabbi Yeshua holds we're afraid for a negligence, that later the person is going to be negligent about it, and he won't separate the chaimish. So therefore, he's not allowed to eat the fruits until he separates the chaimish, so then he'll remember. Rabbi Eliezer holds that we're not afraid for any pshia, so therefore he could separate he can eat once he separates the keren, he redeems the keren, so he can eat it. We're not afraid for any pshia. So they're only arguing in exedim with the Rabbana. But minat Torah, we could say that everybody agrees that you do not have to add the chaimish, like the Gemara proved before from the Mishnah of the Demai. Rabbi Yechanan said, everybody agrees, behektish shechilel, when you come to redeem, to deconsecrate from hektish, that over here, by hektish as well, when you redeem from hektish, you have to add a fifth. But over here, everybody agrees that when you give the principal, even before you give the hektish, you could already take it, and the fifth is an added obligation. It doesn't hold up from the chilul of the hektish. And the reason is, over here, Chacham were not geyser, that you shouldn't be able to take it before you add the fifth. Hoyel v'gizbarim tayvanaisa b'shuk. By hektish has their gizbarim, they have their caretakers or their gabayim that will find you in the street, and they'll ask you for the money. So we're not afraid that you're going to forget to give this chaimish. But the Gemara asks on this, how can we say that Rabbi Yochanan said this? The machlekes that we brought before, whether you have to wait until you give a fifth or not, whether it's ma'akev or not. So before we brought the Braise, where there's a machlekes between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Shua regarding Ma'aseh Sheni, but are you telling me that regarding hektish they don't argue? But Vatanya, we learned similar that they argued also regarding hektish. The Braise says, Nosan es hakeren, regarding hektish, if he gave the principal to redeem it, but he didn't add the fifth yet, Rabbi Eliezer says that it's already chulin. You can take it. The fifth you add later. The Chachamim says no, you can't take it yet until you add the fifth as well. So we see over here clearly that they're arguing regarding hektish as well. And similar over here in this Braise, Omar Rebbe said, Nirin divri Rabbi Eliezer behektish. That so this Braise here, when it's talking about Nasnas Akerval and Nasnas Achaimish, it's talking about hektish and about Meiser, as the Gemara is going to prove now. Because Rabbi says that it appears to me that we should follow what Rabbi Eliezer says regarding hektish, that it's chilel even before you give the chaimish, and I would follow what Chachamim say when it comes to Meiser, that it's not chilel until you give the chaimish. Now, what's the reason for the distinction between hektish and meiser? Why are we more machmer by meiser than by hektish? Because as the Gemara said before the svara, by hektish you have gizbarim. They're going to demand it from you. By meiser you don't. So therefore by meiser we follow the chachamim. So the Gemara explains, we clearly see from what Rebbe says here, that Rabbi Eliezer and the chachamim, regarding this added fifth, they're arguing both by meiser and by hektish. From the fact that Rebbe says that I follow what Rabbi Eliezer says regarding hektish, you don't have to add a fifth before you want to take it and use it. He really argues by both. Rabbi Eliezer holds both by meiser and by hektish. You must first give the fifth in order to be able to use it for yourself. On the other hand, from this, the Rebbe says it appears to me that we should follow what Rebbe says regarding meiser. So what do I see from this? Meklal the inu pligi afilu behektish. Chachamim hold that you have to be machmer both regarding meiser and regarding hektish. You must add the fifth. So we see over here that there is an argument both regarding hektish and regarding meiser. So how did Rabbi Yochanan say that by hektish everybody agrees that the chaimish you can add later? So the Gemara says, itmer, if it was taught what Rabbi Yochanan said, hachi itmer. This is the way it was taught. Amar Rabbi Yochanan said, hakol maidim b'Shabbos behektish shechilol. Everybody would agree that if it's on Shabbos and you're redeeming hektish, that over here it would become chulin even before you add the fifth. But it's only on Shabbos. And the reason is because on Shabbos, regarding hektish, there are two reasons why we should allow you to take it and use it even before you add the fifth. One reason is the chsiva karasa l'Shabbos einik. Shabbos is a mitzvah of einik Shabbos. So if a person is trying to get this for himself to use for the Suda, for einik Shabbos, so therefore there's a special reason why we should allow him to take it before he gives the fifth. And v'yayid, and there's the other reason that we already mentioned before, hayol v'gizbarin, tayvanaisa b'shuk. By hektish, we're not afraid he's going to forget to give the fifth, because the gabbai of the hektish is going to find you, and he's going to demand it from you, or remind you about it. Another halacha says the Gemara, Rami Bachame said, and here the Gemara is going to bring up the payment of a fifth that applies in different cases, and there's an ibaya the Gemara will have regarding this payment of a fifth, whether we compare it to the principle, to the keren, to the halacha that applies by the keren or not. And this applies in a few different cases. So he said as follows, Harei Yomru, it was said, the halacha was said regarding the fifth that you have to add when you redeem hektish. Hektish ain't mischal ala karka. So when you redeem hektish, the money that you pay for hektish, you have to pay money. You can't give property, karka, to hektish if you want to redeem something from hektish. Why? Because the Arachman Omar, the Torah says, v'nosana kesef v'kom loy. You have to give kesef, money, in order to then take the item from hektish. The question now is, chumshai, do I compare and say that the same halacha applies to the fifth that you have to add? That has the same halacha like the principle. Chumshay Maushi is Chal ala Karka. When you have to add that fifth, could you add that fifth from Karka? Or does the fifth also have to be from money similar to the keren itself? That's one iboya. Now another case where you have to add a fifth is by Truma. Truma ene mishtalemes ele min hachulin. This is a case of a person that went and ate the Truma of a kohen b'sheigig. You have to pay him back, and you have to pay him back with a fifth. So the shaila is like this. Now, regarding the principle itself, that you have to pay back the kohen from the truma that you ate from him, you could only pay this from chulin. Rashi explains what the Gemara here means by this term of chulin is, if you ate fruits from a kohen's truma, you can't give him back money or clothing or other items. You have to give him back from chulin produce that can replace that fruits of truma that you ate. That's what over here chulin means. You have to give him back actual fruits. The Rachmana Amad, the Torah says, "V'nasan lakayin es hakodesh." I think that's how you read it here. Just a second. V'nasan lakayin, es hakodesh. What does it mean that when it says give back the kayin what's kodesh? It means dava harayli is kodesh. If you ate his fruits from truma, give him back fruits that can replace those fruits that were holy that he had. So now the question is, do we apply the same halacha to the chaimish that you have to add as well? Chumsha, the fifth that you have to add, ma'ashe yishtalim shalom chulin. Are you allowed to pay this from something that's not chulin, meaning maybe regarding the fifth, you could add just money or clothing or something else that's not actual fruits. Or maybe no, we compare it to the keren itself, you have to pay back fruits. A third case where we have this kind of shaila, whether we compare the fifth to the principle, is regarding meiser. Meiser, so as we're discussing here the whole time, when you redeem Meiser, you have to add a fifth, if it's the owner that's redeeming it. So now what's the halacha regarding the principle that you redeem Meiser? Meiser aim is chalal ala asimain. You can't redeem Meiser with a coin that's an asimain. Asimain is a coin that doesn't have yet the picture on it. It's like a what's it called? The minted coin before it's with the picture, or a blank coin. The Rachmana, because of Torah says v'tzarta kesef biyadecha, that it should be a coin that has a tzarta. Tzarta over here, where darshan means the tzura on the coin. L'rabba is called shesh alav tzura. You only use a coin that has already a tzura picture on it. The question now is chumshoy ma'ashe ischal asimain. The fifth that you have to add, do we say that it's like keren, that you can't use the asimain, or maybe no? Maybe you could use this asimain for the fifth that you have to add. That's the shaila regarding all these three cases. Hektish, Truma, and Meiser, whether you compare the fifth to the keren. Is Galgal Milse, these questions went from one person to the other. And the questions came in front of Rava. Amalahu, and Rava answered them. Omakra, the Torah says, in the pasuk that we quoted before, V'nasan hakesav v'kamloi, over there it says, Olav. The pasuk over there says that v'yosav chamishis kesef erkacha olav. You add a fifth of the money, olav. So from this we learn out l'rabba is chumshay kamoisei olav on the keren. You're adding the fifth to the keren, meaning it should be similar to the keren. So therefore you have to add the fifth, that it should be with all the same halachas that apply to the keren itself. Okay, so what Taisus here points out though, that still, the fifth that you have to add is not exactly the same as the keren, because the Gemara before said that when it comes to the fifth, it's not ma'akiv. The keren is ma'akiv, but the chaimish is not ma'akiv. So we still see that the fifth is not the same as the keren regarding the ikuf, but regarding the halachas of what quality you give for the fifth, that is the same like the keren. Ravina said, we can see this halacha that we just said over here, that the chaimish is just like the keren itself from this that we learned over here in this Mishnah. The Mishnah says as follows: Hagayin of truma v'lo yachola. Person stole truma from the kayin, and he didn't eat it yet. So what's the halacha here? Mishalim tashlume kefil demei truma. You have to pay kefil, just like any regular geneva. You have to pay kefil, double for this. So over here as well, you have to pay back those fruits that you took from the kayin. You still have it. Give back those fruits, but then also add the value of this truma to the kayin as a payment of kefil. Achala, if after you stole it, now you went and ate it, so now mishalim shnei karonim, you're gonna have to pay 2 times the principal, because as we just said, you have to pay kefil and v'chaimish. But then you also have to add a fifth, because once you eat the truma of the kayin, now there's an additional penalty. The Torah says that you have to add a fifth. Okay, so now the Mishnah spells out and says, when it comes to the payment, there's a difference in the obligation of the payment of the keren and the chaimish and the obligation of the payment of the kefil. Keren v'chaymesh menachulin. The keren, the principal, and the fifth that you have to pay, that has to be menachulin. And again, over here, the term menachulin means, like I explained before, Rashi says, you have to give back actual fruits, produce similar to what you took. The hakeren, but then the second keren, which is the kefil that you're paying, that's the mei truma. That you can just give money. It doesn't have to be like the fruits, the produce itself that you took from the truma. So Shema, we clearly see over here in this Mishnah, chumshoi kamaisai, that when it comes to the fifth, that you have to pay like the keren itself, produce, fruits, not just money, like the kefil. Shema, this is a clear raya to the point that we said that the chaimish has the same halacha like the keren itself. Okay, here the Gemara brings up also another shaila benigay to the halachas of paying a fifth. Amar Rave, so Rave said, Gabe gezel ksiv. By gezel, the Torah says, and here we're talking about a person that stole, and he swore falsely about it. He swore that he did not steal. As typically, it's speaking about, we learned this halacha in the Gemara in Bava Metzia, when a person had a pekadon in his possession, and he swore falsely about it, and then afterwards he comes and he admits that he had it. What's the halacha? You have to pay it back with a chaimish, and then with a carbon asham as well, which is the asham gzelos. So regarding this case where the person has to pay the fifth, the pasuk uses the term v'chamishi sav yosef olav. You should add a fifth, and it uses a plural term, chamishi sav. So why does it say this? So Tanan, the Mishnah says in Bava Metzia, no, if the person now, after he admitted, he paid back the principal and a fifth as well, and then v'nishbaloi, again, let me correct that. No, and the person only paid the principal. He didn't pay the fifth yet. And now, when he's being demanded to pay the fifth, he says, v'nishbaloi ala chaimish. He comes and swears falsely regarding the fifth. He says, I don't owe you the fifth anymore. He's kaifer regarding the fifth. And then afterwards he comes and he admits that he did not pay the fifth and he wants to now pay for this fifth. So now, hareza meisav chaimish al chaimish. That fifth that he has to now pay, he has to pay the fifth itself that he denied. And now he's coming to pay it, and he has to add a fifth to this fifth. Now this could happen again. Let's say this happens a second time. Now that he has to pay the fifth plus a fifth for this fifth, if he pays that fifth, and then the fifth of this fifth that he has to pay, that he denies, then he's going to have to pay again that fifth of the fifth with another fifth for that. You have to pay this constantly until it goes less than the value of a pruta, then there's no obligation to pay this fifth anymore. So the point that you see over here is, because the Torah uses the plural term chamishi sav, you pay a fifth and even the fifth of the fifth as well when you deny this fifth that you owed. Now, gabe trumiksiv. What's the term that the Torah uses for truma when it says that you have to pay a fifth? Ish ki yoichal kaidish bishgaga. A person that eats from the truma, that's what kaidish means, b'shegig, v'yasav chamishisai olav. You should pay the back plus a fifth. Now, what does the Torah mean when it says you pay a fifth? And on this, the Tanan, the Mishnah says, ha'oichel truma b'shegig, if you eat truma b'shegig from the kayin, mishalem keren v'chaimish. You pay a keren and a chaimish. Now, echad ha'oichel, this is if you ate from the truma of the kayin, v'echad ha'shaisa, or if you drank from the truma of the kayin, v'echad ha'sach, or if you use it to apply or smear on your body, which is similar, has the same halacha as eating or drinking. Now, echad truma tahira, whether what you took from the kain was truma that was tahir, or echad truma tmeya, or was truma that was tameh. Mishal and chumshe, you're going to pay a chaimish, and the chumshe, the chumshe, and you also have to pay a chaimish of the chaimish. Meaning, if you paid back the kain, this truma plus a chaimish, and then you went and you stole back that chaimish for yourself, now you're going to have to pay back that chaimish plus a fifth of this fifth as well. So over here, similar to what we said before, b'negei t'gzeila, regarding truma, we also say this kind of halacha, that you pay a fifth and also a fifth of a fifth when it applies. Okay, as we'll see soon, the Gemara is going to say over here, even though the Torah does not use the plural term of chamishi sav, but because it says ve'yasaf, we darshan that you have to add this fifth of a fifth. That's by truma. So there's no shaila about that. A third case where there's a halacha of a fifth, and here there's also no shaila. But over here it's the opposite. Over here, when it comes to the fact that you have to pay a fifth for meiser, loy michtav ksiv. It doesn't say, there's no remez anywhere in the pasuk that there's such a concept that you would have to give a fifth and a second time a fifth, and v'loy misna tana. We don't have any mishnah or brayse that says such a concept. By meiser, we don't have any suffix, there's no such a thing. By meiser, you give a fifth, and there's no such a thing, a fifth of a fifth. So we don't have any we don't have any shaila regarding meiser about this. Where is the shaila? And this is the what the Gemara is getting to. Gabe hektish. By hektish, when you redeem hektish and you have to add a fifth. So here's the shaila. Ksiv, the pasuk says, V'im hamaktish yigalas beisai. You come to redeem your house that you gave to hektish. V'yasav chamishis kesef erkacha. You should add a fifth of the value of this house. Tanan, and the Mishnah says, Apoides akdeisha. A person comes to redeem hektish. Meisef chaimish. You add a fifth. Chumshe tanan. But chumshe the chumshe leitnan. The fact that you have to add a fifth, it says, but this halacha that you would have to add a fifth of the fifth, if you gave it back to hektish, and then that you have to add a fifth to that fifth, that it doesn't say over here. So regarding hektish is where we have the shaila. Why is there a shaila over here? So the Gemara now explains that if you compare the pasuk that it says by hektish to the pasuk that it says by trumeh, it's not exactly the same. There's one letter that's the difference. By trumeh, the pasuk uses the term v'yosaf chamishi soy. By hektish it says v'yosaf, what's the word? V'yosaf chamishis. Not chamishi soy, but v'yosaf chamishis. So therefore the Gemara says, maybe there's a distinction. Ka betrumiksev v'yosaf. By trumai darshan, because it says the word v'yosaf, so the vav of the word yosaf is extra. So what do I do with the letter vav of v'yosaf? So I take that vav, I can darshan that vav. Gabe kodesh nami, if so, by kodesh, by kachim, I also have an extra vav there. Haksiv v'yosaf. It says an extra vav of v'yosaf. So therefore, just like regarding trumeh, I darshan from that extra vav that there is a halacha of adding a fifth to a fifth. Maybe this applies by hektish as well. Or perhaps, no. I say as follows: Gabe trumeh ksiv v'yosaf. Yes, there's that extra vav of the word v'yosaf. But now, how do we darshan this? Ishaklis le'levav. You take that extra vav from the word v'yosaf, the v'yosaf, v'shadis le al chamishisai. Then the word right afterwards, it says chamishisai. Add that vav to the word chamishisai. Havale chamishisav. It's as if it says chamishisav, or the Gemara here says chamishisav, or it's really like it says chamishisai with two vavs. Since you're adding the vav to the word chamishi sai, so we consider it as if it says chamishi sav with being plural. But ga behektish ksiv, what does it say behektish? V'yasaf chamishis. It doesn't say chamishi sai. It just says v'yasaf chamishis. So over here, afagav the chishakles le'levav. Even if you're going to take the vav of the word v'yasaf, v'shadis le al chamishis, and you're going to add it to the word chamishis that it says here, sof, but in the end, what do you have here now? Havale chamishi soy. It just says chamishi soy, which is still a singular term. There's no reason to darshan it as a plural term. Rashi over here brings that this idea of taking a letter from one word and adding it to another word, this is a kind of drasha that you find in other places. And this is what's called gairin umeisifin, v'darshan. You take a letter that's extra in one word, you take it away from there, you add it to another word, and then you darshan that other word. So over here, the Gemara shaila is, when you take that vav from the word v'yasaf, and you add it to the word chamishi soy, by trumeh, so over there you can say it's as if it says chamishi sov. So you know that there's two times chaimish because it's plural. But when you take the letter vav from v'yasaf and you add it to chamishis, it becomes chamishi soy. It's still singular. So therefore maybe you don't have twice fifth. But the Gemara says on this, the Gemara says, if so, the conclusion should be, so the Gemara has a shaila here. Should you add, is there a halacha of adding another fifth to the fifth of the hektish or not? If a person redeemed the hektish and he added a fifth, and then he gave back that fifth to hektish, and he wants to redeem it a second time, do you have to add another fifth or not? So the Gemara asks on this, but why we have a shaila about this? Why shouldn't we say as follows? The havale hektish sheni. This fifth that you added when you had to redeem it from the hektish, right? So you redeemed the hektish and you gave a fifth to the hektish, and now you want to redeem this fifth from the hektish a second time. Do you have to add a fifth to that? Why shouldn't we say that over here it's hektish sheni? This is a secondary hektish, and because it's secondary hektish, you don't add a fifth to this. What's the reason? Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said as follows: a hektish rishon ma'asav chaimish. When there's something which was hektish, and this is the original thing that you will makdish, over there when you come to redeem it, you have to add a fifth. Al hektish sheni ein ma'asav chaimish. On a second time, something which is a secondary hektish, over here you don't add a fifth. So seemingly over here, in our case, the chaimish that you add when you redeem from hektish, that's considered to be a secondary hektish. There was the object that belonged to hektish. Now you redeemed it, and you redeemed it by giving hektish the value of the principal with the added fifth. So that added fifth is a secondary hektish, which means you're coming to redeem something else that was originally hektish. So because it's a secondary hektish, there's no halacha of adding a fifth. This is the halacha that Rabbi Shua ben Levi said. So, and Rabbi Shua Gemara is soon going to bring a pasuk where Rabbi Shua ben Levi learned this out. So if so, it should be clear that you don't add a fifth on a fifth because this fifth now is a secondary hektish. Oh, Rav Papi said to Ravina, this is what Rav said about this chaimish that we're talking about here. Chaimish kitchilas hektish dami. This chaimish that you add when you redeem hektish is not considered to be a secondary hektish. Because this chaimish is not the actual value of the hektish itself that you redeemed. It's an added fifth that the Torah said you have to give. So that's considered to be like an original hektish. And therefore the shaila still remains whether you have to add a fifth on this if you want to redeem it from hektish. So Ma'ayav Yallah, what's the answer to this shaila? Omar Avtiv Yoimi Mishmei Da'abaye Omakra. The pasuk says regarding hektish, V'yosaf chamishis kesef erkecha, that you add a chamishis of kesef of the erech of what you're redeeming, and so therefore we compare when we say makish chaimshay lekesef. We compare the chaimish that you're redeeming from the hektish, or you're adding when you redeem hektish, lekesef, to the money itself, to the principal that you redeem from the hektish, lekesef erkai. Ma kesef erkai meisef chaimish. Just like when you come to redeem the principal itself, you have to add a chaimish. Av kesef chumshay nami meisef chaimish. If you're coming to redeem that chaimish that you added, you also have to add a chaimish. Similar to what the Gemara said before, the halachas of the keren and the halachas of the chaimish, we compare them to each other. Here as well, the same thing is regarding this halacha of adding a fifth, that you compare the chaimish to the keren itself. Gufe, so here the Gemara brings the source of what Rabbi Shua ben Levi said before. Where is the source that when you redeem hektish, that only the original hektish you have to add a fifth, but a secondary hektish you don't have to add a fifth? Rabbi Shua ben Levi said, Al hektish rishain meisav chaimish. What you were makdish originally, and you're coming to redeem it, for that you add a chaimish. Val hektish sheni, however, on a secondary hektish, if you redeemed something from hektish, and now you have that secondary hektish, so then you don't have to add a chaimish. Ein meisav chaimish. You don't add a chaimish on this. Amarava, my time with Rabbi Shua ben Levi. What's the source of Rabbi Shua ben Levi? Omakra, the pasuk says, V'im hamakdish yigal es beisai. If someone that wants to redeem the house that he gave to hektish, so it says here hamakdish, the one that was makdish this house, the pasuk that continues and says he has to add a fifth. V'loi hamatfis, but not someone else that now goes and redeems this house from hektish, and that's the secondary hektish, the money that now became hektish in exchange for this house. When you come to redeem that, you don't have to add a chaimish. Tani Tane. Okay, let's stop over here. This starts sort of a new subject. Okay.